Okay, so this is sort of another Bitcoin related. Hold on. Yeah, so this is another Bitcoin related um recording, and it really is about understanding Bitcoin memory systems. Really, everything we're interacting with in terms of computers is based upon memory. It literally is that. That is the key thing. I read this book called Life 3.0. Read that, get the audio book, and it's really like kind of the first couple of chapters that talk about memory, and then they talk about itself. When you're listening to that, and they talk about substrate independence. Okay, the substrate independence thing, that's about AI. But if you're hearing that, you're in the right chapter. Okay, but substrate independence, that's just AI talk. But because it's talking about intelligence, and I'm not going to go into it. But the memory thing, understanding everything about how computers work, how a hard drive works, how SSD works, how they even pulled off this trick of a computer being able to operate, think, okay, or resemble thinking. When you log into your computer and you click in about and it's carrying out functions and it's like, and it's producing visuals and it's producing sounds, and you're just like, how do we get to this? Okay, so the memory thing, that's the key thing. That's what everyone is trying to solve. I think that's what the Egyptians were trying to solve. I think when someone builds a building, that's what they're trying to solve. When you build a house, yeah, you've cemented something. It's a memory thing. Look around your house or your accommodation or your flat, wherever it is. It's like it's stably secure within reality. It's preserved. It's a preserved structure, preserved information, preserved knowledge and understanding. Multiple layers as well. We've got plumbing, we've got brickwork, we've got foundations, we've got electrics, we've got it resisting the weather, we've got it resisting rain, the cold. Once you could learn all this in a lifetime, you could learn how to do it. Because that's the principle of surviving as a human, the basic needs: shelter, food, water. You can waste all your energy trying to secure yourself against the elements. But yeah, you can waste energy always having every single human being who comes after you battling over shelter. But once you build a house that can withstand 30, 50, 60, 100 years, it is a preservation of knowledge into a structure that has an element of permanence. Okay, it continues to exist. It is the memory of what you've learned cemented into the physical. And the proof is in the fact that the structure is here and that it does last that amount of time. And then from there, you can go on to solve other, build knowledge elsewhere and hopefully cement it into reality. Now, there's having a house, and then there's having to know how to build a house. Well, most of us are not in the stage of knowing how to build a house, but we are in the stage of the house is being built well enough that there can be plentiful amount of them, and they still continue to operate based on the knowledge that's been amassed years ago. Okay, so going back to memory, and we're far away from our point here. We're getting there, but this is all based upon being able to store information in a secure, stable way. Now, to relate this to Bitcoin, and I kind of need to. I know my next point I'm going to make, but I'm forgetting what the big expansion is. Oh yeah, I remember it now. So let's start the story. The most profound gift ever bought. Now let's take you back. We used to play PlayStation. That was a gift bought that kind of changed our lives in terms of interacting with digital technologies, the digital realm. PlayStation, you can go to all these different realms: Spider-Man, Spyro, whatever, Crash Bandicoot, Crash Bash. Now, there was a limit. The way we interacted with it is you turn it on, you play it, it's done. Now, what changed the game? What changed the game? What was bought for us was a memory card. Okay, this secures a different realm. This secures a digital realm and introduces something called memory, in which you can save where you are in your game and then continue off from there. Instead of just doing things over and over again, you can't really interact with the game. You can't interact with the realm, the digital realm that you're going into, if you have to keep starting over and over again. And that should say a lot about you as a being, your community, your family, your culture, wherever you're in, society, civilization. If you have to keep starting over and over again, you can't really consciously get into the realm. Okay? If you keep forgetting. Now the memory card, even though it was some tiny amount of memory, and I remember, I'm gonna pull up a picture of what it looks like because I remember that. Because when we got that and had the black face or the black portal face and had the red light, that changed the game. That really did change the game. And we're relating this back to Bitcoin, okay? Because someone the other day asked me very randomly as we were working together, they said, so, well, how do you feel about the fact that we're all gonna die and we're doing all this work and it's not gonna be remembered and blah blah blah? And I was just thinking about that this morning. You know, no one asked me these questions. No one ever asked me these questions, but working with this person, their mind is in that same state. Okay, so I'm thinking about, and this was always my philosophy because I always hated the work that I do, because you are doing work and you are buried. You're buried under time to be forgotten. You're going to do work. It's very labor intensive work, should I say, that is buried under layers and layers and will not be remembered. Okay, it will not be remembered. It's like you walk down the street, you see the pavement, you see all these buildings, and most people just think that this is like some video game where it was just loaded up and it was all there. People paved the roads, they built all these houses, every brick, all the electrical wires, the plumbing, the sewers, but no one remembers this. No one cares. There is spirit within the matter, since it was manifested or created by humans. It's just so much of it that you just walk by it, you stand upon it, and it's not even about being remembered. It's just that you gave your spiritual essence. You took up 12 hours a day to pave the roads for 6 months straight. Your essence is cemented into the road. You could have been doing anything else. You could be doing something that's getting remembered. Okay? I mean, it is getting remembered, but you could put your spirit into it. You, the individual, but you are just part of a mass, a blob of bodies who are laying down bricks, who are laying down pavement for an idea. Okay? And you, the individual, cannot expend anything of your individuality into a creative work. You are just buried under time. We stand upon the pavements 100, 200 years later. No one, your name's not there. You're not even recognized. You took 12 hours a day for multiple years, even paving up all these roads. It took that much time out of you, and there's nothing to show for it. You don't even get to pass down some wealth to your kids. This is the way that the system operates this day and age. You do these type of jobs, you pay minimum wage. If you waste your money buying booze, gambling, that's on you. You don't even get an equity share. It's like, think about how much value is transported upon these roads, taking people to work, transporting goods. You don't get a share of that because you got paid in this money of the camp, this money of the prison, which is meant to keep you working. It's meant to keep you in that lower position of working without a fair, equitable share. You don't get none of the tax revenue. You don't get no GDP, share of the GDP. You're not a shareholder. You're using a currency. So your money would operate like a share. It would accrue value based on the GDP increase or the wealth increase of the country itself. But you are forced to use a currency which dissipates energy, which you extend, you exert your scarce spiritual time in exchange for an equitable share payment. But that payment can be debased. It can be turned in, it can be diluted. Okay, so this is why people buy houses, because a house is a fixed asset, which is like a share of the fixed amount of land in your country, which is pretty much designed to increase with the debasement of money. It should increase when the town or city you live in has developed and become more wealthy and etc. etc. But it's also designed to increase by the debasement of money. Okay, but see, your money should act like an equitable share. If you had been paid in gold for paving those roads, if you had been paid in gold for paving those roads 100 years ago, and you still had that gold today, if you received a payment of £50, that gold would have, increased in value or maintained its value in payment. It would have acted as an equity share. Do you know what I mean? The £50, if you had held it in pounds, would be worth £50, but it would buy less. £50 could have bought you a car. No. Well, it would have bought you, well, depending on how long ago we're talking, it would have bought you some serious stuff. Okay? It really could have. It could have bought you, I don't know, £50. You would have got paid more than that. But £500 maybe could have got you a deposit on a house. Or £100. You probably wouldn't need a deposit. I don't know. But the pounds were diluted because it's the current layer, the currency layer. They're meant to keep that layer moving, keep you working, keep you in a position of lowest negotiation so that you can power the system, fuel it. They're not trying to have you say, oh, you want to be taking 6 months holiday. No, no, no. You got to be working minimum wage to power the system for whatever job they give you. They're not trying to have you in a position of negotiation. The monetary unit that you use to represent your equity is debaseable. It can be corrupted. It's their property. They leave as they want. You have been demonetized. You have no ability to have a secure monetary tool to represent your energy, your time, what was being, what was exchanged. So to go back to what I was saying, this guy asked me, blah blah blah. How do you feel about the fact that you're gonna die? It's not gonna be remembered. And I'm like, I'm remembering it. It's gonna be remembered, okay? And that is via the exchange of my monthly equity payment in the form of pounds for Bitcoin. Okay, Bitcoin is that memory system. Bitcoin is that memory system. There's other things you can do, which is pivoting your consciousness, because he's asking that question. He has a dead end. If you don't believe Bitcoin is the answer, it's more important to go into Bitcoin, just so that you pivot your consciousness into thinking that, based on if Bitcoin is this thing, this gold payment, this equivalent in receiving the payment in gold and a secure amount. Bitcoin is a memory system. Bitcoin changes the game so that you don't have to start again. Okay, but once you pivot your consciousness and you believe that Bitcoin is such a thing, your outlook now will change. Okay, because you will be operating on the fact that you have value for yourself. You have no other choice, really and truly. You can either go be buying gold, but it doesn't make sense now. It doesn't make sense heading into the digital age to put yourself in that position to go all gold. You should secure yourself in a form of insurance with a bit of physical gold. But Bitcoin, where we're heading, is the current answer. It is the memory system that is secure for the next upcoming age. So in my view, this is what I see. This is how I'm operating, where we do this job. It is not remembered. You are buried under time to do some laborious activity that is buried somewhere on the machine that we are working on. Your spirit, because the machine we're working on can last long periods of time. Okay, but the work you do, your spirit, your kids ain't gonna see it. They ain't gonna find it. no other human is really gonna find it. Even when the human goes on that machine, they won't even see it. It's like being a coder. You're coding up the back end, and people just see the front face, the user interface. You don't see the long nights that you were there coding up, trying to debug this thing. I don't remember that. I don't see that. They just want the thing to do what it wants. They leave the crap review saying, "Oh, it's whack, it doesn't work." They don't see the hours that you lost. So when you receive your payment, you can hold your equity share, your time representation, which is the currency that you receive. It should be money, but it's not. You can hold that and try to secure it. People buy houses, people invest, they buy stock, shares, they buy gold. They're trying to cement it into something that will be remembered and will have its value recognized. Gold over 5,000 years, its value is recognized due to its ability to not be debased, corrupted, can't be printed, it requires work to find. You're trying to secure something against the future. What's hot now? Blockbuster's hot now. Things change. Netflix. I'm telling you, Bitcoin is taken into account changes like that. If you understand Bitcoin, people who don't understand Bitcoin, they say MySpace, Facebook. They don't understand it. They don't understand the protocol. They don't understand, it's the way it secures itself against all attackers with anything they can produce for the next 10, 20, 30 years. The position of the US can be compromised by the upcoming of China, Russia, BRICS. Okay, that's the US. Bitcoin is not concerned about any of them, since any way in which they surpass each other cannot surpass Bitcoin. Okay, so we're trying to, Bitcoin is oh my God, Bitcoin is buddy, someone put something for the post. Anyway, Bitcoin is that is stalled with me. Someone put something for the post. But anyway, Bitcoin is a securing of a reality, of a timeline upon which we're heading into a diminishing amount of Bitcoins being released. Those beings of the future cannot erase the past. They do not have the energetic capacity to erase all the energy that's gone into the network, which secures its history. Okay, they cannot change the future that they're born into, upon which Bitcoin just needs to get there. Bitcoin just needs to get there, and they cannot, just like the land beneath their feet. If there's a thing called the UK government, which enforces property rights and tax and collects tax, if you buy your house 20 years in the past, You pay your tax. That system is still in place. The beings of the future cannot just say, we own this house. The new beings of the future cannot just say, we own your house, or we're not acknowledging its value. If they want that house, they're going to have to buy it from you. Okay, they're going to have to deal with the reality of houses that are available, whether new houses were built, with the income that they're receiving. If your house is appreciating in value, they have to deal with that. Bitcoin is securing you against all potential attackers of the future. You're not dependent on property rights enforced by a government, which can be overthrown, which can be beat by China, which can be compromised. A government is really dependent upon the belief of the people, the submission of the people, and tax revenues, and the ability for their currency in a way to be deemed valuable. You know what I mean? It gives them that competitive edge for them to be exporting something. Some countries even weaken their currency for exports. Okay, but it's like when you got countries beefing you by the utilization of AI and using that to reduce the cost of, create innovations that reduce the cost of goods and services, it's like you've reduced the market share and dominance of other countries to the point that they're like third worlders. The UK can become third world. Then its position is compromised. It can just be absorbed by China. China money is just so strong. It just gets into the political class, it gets into the regime, and usurp China. You know what I mean? A couple things happen, you ain't got that property now. A couple things happen, Chinese citizens get prioritized over you. You don't get that deal. You don't get to expand business-wise. The Chinese British citizen is preferred. You realize that you're becoming a real minority in your country on multiple layers. Okay? So you can sit here and say, obviously they're not gonna, like, when stuff like this really happens to you, like you'll know, you'll understand what the system was made out of. Okay? Because in this world, again, they're not gonna just erase your property rights if you bought a home, but they really decide, you lot at max capacity, you're a minority, or you're not going above this percentage. Okay, so you can own your homes, but you lot ain't expanding. So you're going to see the fickleness of the system that is dependent upon the interest of individuals, the human. Now, Bitcoin is not discriminated against anyone. Your property rights are defended at the person who has one sat, one Satoshi, 0.01 Bitcoin, 0.001 whatever, is defended by the same properties or the same mechanics that defends the person with 100,000 Bitcoin. Okay, you're not compromised at any point in time. Okay, so I've weaved the web and I can't even remember where I was going. So let's start the memory system. Well, let's go to the let's loop this back. So you're here in the present, exchanging your time for cash, pounds. That won't be remembered. What you done, what you sacrificed, working out overtime. You would hope that it will be remembered in the equity payment that you received, but these are not equity payments. They're they're tokens, they're time constrained tokens that have a value for some amount of time that can be redeemed, and they kind of expire. When you're devaluing the money, it's like saying, it expires, bro. You gotta use this stuff now. Okay, so people wanna exchange for something that's not getting erased, eroded over time. We're gonna exchange it for the Bitcoin because it's that secure memory system. When you buy Bitcoin and you withdraw it to your wallet, you're having it written onto the chain. So this thing called the Bitcoin blockchain that we all talk about, that is it. You're being actually written into it. When you buy it on Coinbase and you leave it on Coinbase, you're not in any memory system. You're not in the Bitcoin memory system. All those nodes, those copies of the blockchain that people have downloaded, you're not in there. You're on Coinbase's memory system. Okay, and if they want to, they have to remember you, really and truly. Their system has to remember you, and they have to honor your claim to their reserves that they could lose. Do you understand? So you want to be written into that blockchain that requires the energy of almost a country. When you are requesting that your Bitcoin is sent, you're using, it's like the pen of the gods. It's like Thor and his hammer. To write requires the energy of an entire country, and it just happens like that. If you speak the language of the network, which is having the private key and the digital signature, you communicate. All that pen is lifted by the gods, and you are written into it, and it is remembered. This is some big technology for this point in time. Do you understand? Because no one person can say erase that. They need the energy of the collective. Bitcoin is decentralized. It's using the energy of the collective, the distributed collective, to act as one writer of the pen, one energetic requirement to write with this pen. Though we may have China, we may have Russia, we may have America, all strategically in defense of each other, not trusting each other, making sure that they have a portion of this hash rate so that they cannot be denied this ability to write onto the, to alter the chain. Every nation now must have an energetic requirement to have a certain amount of hash rate. If they don't, really truly, you can be denied, because there's a fixed amount of coins, fixed amount of data that can be written into the chain at any point in time. So other people, China has 90% of the hash rate. You can say, oh, it's centralized. But the reality is, if they got 90%, it means they're energetically dominant. It means they're compute dominant in the forms of ASIC chips. Okay, so you would see that again in reality, not just in the Bitcoin. You can't just say, oh, because they're mining Bitcoin, it's not real anymore. They would energetically, economically be dominant in reality as well. Their currency would be dominant in reality as well. Do you know what I mean? So it's not a case of you saying, oh, you have no say in this world. If you got 5% Bitcoin hash rate and China's got 95%, it's likely in the world you are small. America is now small. America is now irrelevant. So all these nations must invest in what is real. Printing is not going to save you. Printing is not proof of reserves. Printing is just typing numbers on a database at this point in time. It's not the proof of anything, not the proof of you being rich. It just means you've got a computer which can debase the people. So for you as an individual, you're sacrificing your time, your minimum wage job. It must be remembered. And we're heading into a future in which what was written cannot be corrupted, cannot be changed, cannot be altered. So Bitcoin will remember you. It will remember the work that you've done, because you're going to get your payment and you're going to exchange it for the equivalent amount of Bitcoin. Yes, Bitcoin is 100,000 or 85,000 or whatever it is. Okay, so if you're putting £1,000 in, you're getting 0.01. Once that is written on chain, that will be remembered. That is 0.01 out of 21 million. And the beings of the future will be in a reality in which all this work, all this history has been recorded of who owns what. And they will be in a reality where what new Bitcoin is being created is smaller, it's diminishing. And the world can decide how they want to value that they're not creating any more of this. It's at a limit. The people who have exchanged their time and energy don't want to give it up until it is, it's not even like, I say they don't want to give it up until it's valued appropriately. But they don't want to give it up because what else is securing their scarce time here on this planet? What else is going to be going to have its value preserved in this type of technological way into the future? We say that the Facebook, MySpace thing, Bitcoin is not even a case of Facebook, MySpace. Okay, I've explained to you, it's not getting compromised in that way, to what I'm understanding right now. Okay, so where this phenomena, Marvel, called Bitcoin, that's combined all these things to constrain the creation of a digital number, okay, and have it have the properties of money so that it can be valued and transported and exchanged and stored. Where's someone else going to go? We've seen what happens when they exchange their time and energy for fiat, dollars, pounds, euros, and the work that they've done gets erased. It gets diminished by the fact that they print more and dilute your work, your equity share. So where the hell is a human going to go? Why are they going to put themselves in that position again? Why are they going to, they can depend upon a state government, which is acting in its own best interest for the state, hoping that you get disempowered so that you become dependent upon them. They increase their tax revenues by taxing you basically. It's a stealth tax. Or you can just have a software protocol that takes its power away from any sole individual, and the same actors which are beefing each other are incentivized to secure this network so that no one of their opponents really dominate them. So they have to be allies in this way because they have more to lose than you, really and truly. If the US lets China win or become too dominant, or Russia or whoever, or Africa, what you get? So you're securing yourself by the beef of people more powerful than you, who are really battling over you. You know what I mean? They were battling over your essence, your energy, which they could just access by putting you in a position of dependence. Do you know what I mean? Putting you in a position of asking for more because you haven't mastered this knowledge of the money, of the magic, that they can just turn your gold into lead. They base it a bit, fill your gold with a bit of tin and take 10% of the gold out and store it for themselves, and keep doing that over 100 years, and you end up with just a bunch of gold-colored tin. They got more gold, and you basically got tricked into working for an illusion. You got tricked into working for gold-colored tin upon which is abundant. You can't even tell the difference. You just fell for the surface trick. You fell for the illusion. Okay, they were once constrained by the limits of gold and God, the universe, until they tricked you into not understanding the foundation, the reality, and you fell for the symbol, the surface, the illusion, the shell game. The P was removed and you just saw the shell, the carrot, the carrot and stick that was dangling in front of your face, the mirage, the false signal, the mirage of water that you saw, so that you expended your scarce energy to go to that water source, only to be revealed to be an illusion. You did the work that they wanted you to do, and in return was paid nothing. You was paid nothing. They won't pay you in anything that they will lose, that they have to do work to get back again. They won't pay you in gold. They won't pay you in Bitcoin. They pay you in this thing, they lose it, they print more. It's of no loss to them. They issued it. They'll never run out. It's scarce for you. Okay, so the mastery of the money, the memory system, Bitcoin is gonna remember. So to the person, that's what I was really trying to explain to this person. I was trying to say, look, my mindset is different. This Bitcoin thing is going from pennies to 100,000. Once everyone understands the position that they're in, that they're willingly representing their equity in a lesser currency that's putting them in this non-negotiable position. You cannot negotiate. You will accept whatever they will make. They can print and make you poorer, make the price of everything go up the next year. And you'll be saying, damn, I gotta work overtime. Damn, I can't even afford my mortgage. You're not in a position to negotiate. You're desperate. Okay? So the more people understand this, maybe, and they try to scare you by saying, you could lose all your money. They tried to keep you in the, remember the Truman Show? They tried to attract Truman when he was, he had a bit of fears about war, but he wanted to leave, he wanted to go Fiji, he wanted to go on a bus, he wanted to get off the island that he was trapped on, that was trying to contain him. And they tried to attack him with all these fears, and they just stand there, smile on his face, knowing that he has those concerns, and play on it. And that's what, someone who's in monetary pain, to hear, oh, you can lose all your money. It's like, this is what they say, to keep you in the cave, to keep you in the village. M. Night Shyamalan, you know what I mean? To keep you in the village with all these ghouls and goblins, saying you can't go to the perimeter of the village, just to keep you from discovering the truth. Okay, so once people, maybe it's going to take some new, fresh, young blood who's not in monetary pain to really listen to the message and say, okay, before I take on the debt, before I take on this, before I overextend myself, let me operate with monetary defense in the new digital age by the technologies that are given to me. Okay, because why am I going to put myself in a position of representing my equity, my time, what was exerted, into something that I hope should have its value recognized, the money? It's like you've done 5 years for a degree. The degree is the representation of your equity, your time, that you hope you can take to an employer and say, here, I've done the work, here's my representational artifact. I'm hoping that when I took this degree 5 years ago, that when I got this degree 5 years later, it was at a point in time upon which its value will be secured and appreciated. And it would get me the higher paying job. But when you're here in that day and age, we've done 5 years for the degree, you get your equity, your payment in the form of the certificate, the degree, and you take it to the employer and they say this ain't worth nothing. You've wasted your time. You received payment for an artifact or instrument that was not secure against future attacks. The AI, the oversaturation of everyone doing the same degree, that's like printing, dilution. Okay, they said, this is scarce, no one has this degree. Next, 5 years later, everyone has a degree. We are telling you Bitcoin is becoming scarce through time. It's mathematically secure, computationally secure, because it's written into the code, and the code is very simple. The monetary principles are very simple. 21 million limit, here's how it's being distributed. If you want to change that, you need global consensus. You need consensus for everyone who's a Bitcoiner. And everyone, if you're listening to this and you're thinking, okay, this is sounding like it makes sense. But your fear is that maybe you come into Bitcoin and now you feel like you might get scared that they're going to change it to 22 million. They're going to print more. See, that's what makes you the Bitcoiner. That's what secures this chain. The fact that you can come in here and say, well, I've just heard about this thing, but I don't want it to change to 22 million, to 42 million. Because if what you're saying is correct, then this is what's going to protect me. And that's the resistance. This is what we're talking about. We need global consensus. Because if you can hear that and say, well, I want my equity to be protected, you are that opposition. You result in there never being global consensus to change the limit. So everyone says, oh, they could change it. They could change it. They always say that. They say they. In Bitcoin, there's no authority. There's no they is coming to change anything. Okay, there needs to be global consensus. And if you have a sane mind and you're saying, okay, yeah, I can't buy coffee with it, I can't do all these, it's not as mobile as of now, but you can see the issue of exchanging your equity for the baseable, non-useful representational unit and the position it puts you into. And you can hear that Bitcoin staying at where, how it operates, 21 million is going to significantly protect you. Again, you are the opposition. You are that you have enough information now to say, to feel confident enough to voice your opinion, to be that node on the network and run the software that says Bitcoin is 21 million. And that's your vote. That's your voice. That's your vote for your political leader. That's your monetary vote. And that's how you really say it. That's how you project it in the world. You download the Bitcoin blockchain, you run a node, and you run the software that says 21 million only. And that's what you can really do. And you can buy the thing that is 21 million only. Because if they decide to change it, there will always be that. There will be those who say Bitcoin is 21 million only. It has this monetary emission, and those who are seeking to change it. And the thing that 21 million only will be called Bitcoin. And that's what you're going to run. That's a software. That's what you tick, wrote red, wrote blue, whatever it is. That's as simple as it is. You're just running a software that says Bitcoin is 21 million, and you act as a node and relay on the network for information of new blocks being found. Okay? And that's as simple as that. That's your vote for the next 50 years. That's your way to represent. That's your monetary defense. You have your Bitcoin wallet, you have your node, you have your own keys. Okay? So to that person, about what you're doing, how do you feel about the fact that you're gonna die and this ain't gonna be remembered? Well, you will have to remember. You have to operate the fact that you're seeking to store the value of your time here, your efforts, and cement it. Just like someone in Mexico, these are buy bricks and they build a house one layer at a time. They work all them years, get the bricks, and just do one layer at a time, one floor at a time. And by the end of their working life, they have a house there cemented, boom, for the kids, for the children, one brick at a time. And that's you buying 1,000 pounds worth of Bitcoin right now gets you 0.01. Now, a person 20 years from now, I'm telling you, they can't do what you are doing now. They cannot come back to 2025, 2026 and be in the present and buy Bitcoin at its price. Just like you can't go back to 2009 and buy Bitcoin at pennies. Where we have an emission rate, we have a supply, we have people realizing that this is a better thing to hold and to never let it go. So they're going to be, the people of the future are going to be in a world in which it's even less. They're going to have to, you worked 1 month to get 1,000 pounds to get 0.01, or you worked 3 months to get the spare cash. They're going to have to work 5 years. They're going to have to work, like, there's no way around this. Forget about monetary values. Just think of Bitcoin like a substance, a fixed amount of gold. And it's work to acquire based on agreed value. And it's really agreed value in the sense of a market price. That is it. And that market price is based on available supply. Who's willing to sell? And when such a substance can be constrained in creation and be as useful to be able to be stored securely, transported, verified, sold in small increments, you can't sell, you know what I mean? You can't sell 1 square meter of land. You can sell 0.0, you can sell 1 unit of Bitcoin though, and you can have a buyer globally. You can have 100 buyers, you can have 100 sellers of 0.01 Bitcoin, and that could be bought by one person who wants to buy 1 Bitcoin. You know what I mean? You can buy any small amounts and there is a buyer for it because it's divisible to that extent that is useful. That, you can have a buyer, a seller of any amount. You can break off and sell any amount and have a global buyer of it. This is why for banks, it will be a superior collateral. This is why banks will lend against this, because once it's very liquid, it will become very liquid, and it has a securing of its value, and it has a buyer 50 years into the future. Because nothing is really going to surpass this thing 50 years into the future. There's no innovation that's going to be, protocols are normally 100 times better. Facebook to MySpace, MySpace to Facebook, that's 10 times better. A protocol is innovation and a combination of so many things. It's a new way of doing things, and it's 100 times better. Okay, so a bank is going to likely realize that this is the superior asset, which significantly reduces their risk to lend against. A collateral instrument, a house, lasts 30 years. But there's so many things going on with governments, there's so many things going on with war, there's so many things going on with climate. A house now looks very fickle and risky, can crumble, can decay over time. The time span is now expanded. Bitcoin can be pristine for 100 years, 1 out of 21 million. A digital number does not decay, it does not rust, it does not erode, it cannot be destroyed by a hurricane, cannot be destroyed by war, cannot be compromised. Immediately liquid, can be sold by any buyer, can be sold to any buyer, can be sold at any amount. Yeah, so I don't know if you can see this, but reality itself has created a pristine, secure collateral asset within the digital world that's almost as real as a gold bar that can last 100 million years, 100 million years, but is more equally verifiable, transportable than gold is and could ever be. Because we can't know the information about gold, we cannot know information about the external reality that's greater to us, or the greater reality that is external to us. We don't know where the gold is, we don't know how much is there, we don't know what's in Fort Knox, we don't know if it's real. But the bank, this is going to be a collateral asset because it's the time thing. It's really, there's nothing in the next 50, 20 years, well, there's nothing in the foreseeable future that can really compromise its value other than the quantum computer. But again, it can be upgraded to being quantum secure. Once we get over that hurdle, then you're really going to see that the time thing, the beings of the future cannot be born into any other time or any other timeline in which this Bitcoin blockchain is compromised. It will be there with them. It will be there with them and will be further on the distribution curve. By 2035, we'll be at 99% of Bitcoins emitted, or I think by 2040 it's 99.8. They cannot do anything about it, and trust me, they'll know about it. It will be dissipated. That information will be dissipated because its value would have increased. Everyone would have learned even more about it. Young people would have been empowered by it. The beings of the future cannot escape this timeline. They cannot escape this train that is heading down the tracks into their time. They cannot be born into any other plane of existence. The land beneath their feet, the fixed amount of land beneath their feet, the houses that were built upon it, the government, the protocol of enforcement, the tax collection, they couldn't be born into any other realm. But with the geopolitical disturbances, the threats from AI, those things can now just be here today, gone tomorrow. They look very silly now, in my opinion. Bitcoin is a technological defense system against all these things. I think you should read Jason Lowery. But although it was a very thick book, but some of the concepts that he presented, I feel like I could explain them better. But you kind of get the gist. You can build a framework of thinking in terms of defense and who's now really compromised. Okay, the beings of the future, Bitcoin just needs to get there one block at a time, maintain its integrity, authenticity, no corruption of the data, increasing the energetic requirement to alter it, to mint it. It will inevitably go up, as this thing is really proven to be the most scarcely emitted monetary instrument of the time. Okay, so the beings of the future, like AI, can be used to create propaganda. Everyone is interacting with reality based on what they've seen or what's been programmed via the screen, via the curriculum, via propaganda. That all kind of depended upon it. That was the old world's AI. Energy being used to falsify a narrative, to change history via media, movies, culture. Okay? AI can now single-handedly control the social layer, the social programming layer, the conscious layer of how you're interacting with reality, how you see it, though it is dependent upon energy and compute. That of which Bitcoin is always going to be there on the side. In my opinion, Bitcoin is always going to be there on the side. And Bitcoin is always the most valuable thing to mint, to utilize your energy for. You can use it for AI. For how long? Is it 24/7? Bitcoin is 24/7. There's always a reward. There's always a block reward every 10 minutes. AI is variable. Yes, you are maintaining the consciousness of the planet for control. It's a control layer. And I guess humans don't sleep, or humans sleep for a fixed amount of time. And they're not really 24/7 globally at the whole same time. But Bitcoin is a competitive game. You're always going to need, there's always a risk. Unless you can surpass the cryptography, the SHA-256, unless proof of work is no longer really proof of work, then we're really the beings of the future and the reality upon which, just like there's a government, there's an empire, there's a world that they be born into. They will be born into the reality of Bitcoin and its timeline and its history. And you need to cement yourself onto that memory train by being consciously present right now and saying, I'm going to exchange my time into something that will be remembered. And it will be remembered. Your portion of the 21 million. And the beings of the future can do nothing but acknowledge your wealth, acknowledge the work that you've done energetically all that time ago. They cannot come back into the present, the now, to acquire what you've acquired. Just like you can't go, Bitcoin was 3,000, 2,000, whatever. You can't go back at that market price, at that exchange rate, to accumulate what was monetarily more abundant. You know, if it costs $10 per Bitcoin, you can buy, 1,000 pounds or $1,000 buys X amount. There's a reality where you're just absorbing a greater portion of the available supply until the supply is diminished in that sense. All capital has saturated the available supply from sellers, and then we enter the reality of the remaining supply being released by the network via mining is diminishing, halving as well. And you cannot make your capital, the dollars to pounds, abundantly interact with a supply that is not there. What is being released is halved. You cannot buy a false entry into the ledger. The remaining supply, the emitted supply, is halved. Your money can technically buy the same amount, but it's not the same amount. There is half. And as a result, the price appreciation occurs when the market realizes that the coins are simply not there. They're lost. They're not being sold. If you want an entry onto the ledger, you must buy what's available to buy. You must buy from a seller, and you must have it written onto the chain. And that is what's remembered. Someone sold it to you, you bought it, and it was sent to you. And that cannot be changed. It doesn't matter if Warren Buffett decides, Bitcoin's the most valuable thing, tries to snap his fingers and say, get me whatever amount. He has to buy it. If there's no sellers, thankfully his 300 billion now increases. He's going to go, his money is now going on the search for 300 billion's worth of Bitcoin. Okay, if there are no sellers, he's now on a time drip, a monetary time drip where he has to slowly dissipate his money into Bitcoin without pushing up the price. But then he's also competing against everyone else who has the sense to buy. And some other people might just push the price up. Okay, so his wealth, be it that is now being funneled into a smaller surface area, force over area, what happens to the price? His wealth is being diminished, yours is being appreciated. Yours is appreciating. All that capital is being funneled into trying to acquire an amount of Bitcoin that is simply not available for sale at its current price. So that should really explain to you the future of Bitcoin, where it's heading, where you are heading, in terms of monetary defense, since the dollar, the pound, is never trying to put you into a position of negotiation. Okay, you're being debased, your position, your vote is being weakened. That's how I just end it there. So memory, you must be remembered. If you ain't remembered, then at least Bitcoin can remember you. And the thing about Bitcoin, the key thing is this: if we go back to 2010, we can actually view the Bitcoin blockchain. There could have been people who were fanatics about Bitcoin. And in the first 4 years, half of the supply was released. Half was released by the network to miners. Now, those people could have been fanatic about Bitcoin. They could have valued it. They could have amassed, there's addresses that have 50,000 coins, 20,000 coins, and they haven't moved since 2010. Those people could have died. Those coins could be lost. And simply, we say Bitcoin is 21 million. If those coins are lost, their work, in a way, is remembered. Okay? Their work is remembered because we cannot get those coins. So if Bitcoin, if X amount are lost, 4 million, they say, then there's only 17 million. Yeah, there's only 17 million really left. Okay? And I said force over area. We now have a smaller area of the world's global capital who are in the same position of being debased, who are in the same position of depending upon assets that are defended by governments, states, structures that can be compromised, that can be attacked, that can be surpassed, buying bonds and all this nonsense. Okay? So we have an even smaller surface area. And this thing called Bitcoin, the beginnings of 50 years from now, 20 years from now, it is that same history that is being secured. Those fanatics of 2010, 2011 who died, whose coins we have lost, if the quantum computer cannot get it, it is that same history that will be remembered. It's that same removal of the supply that remains true, that there's nothing we can do about. You can say, oh, some coins are lost. You can't print more. You cannot reissue. So coins that could be worth billions, multiple billions, that would have been sold, that would have added to the liquid supply, are no longer there, making every other coin worth more. That energy, that acquisition and securing of Bitcoin to an address, I mean, that person had their own keys, their work is appreciated. Well, their work is secured. The value of the work is secured and is represented in the liquid supply of Bitcoin. Because, Bitcoin's 100,000 right now. It can go up in price. People can bid to buy it until a seller steps in. A seller wants to sell 100,000 Bitcoin at this current price level. Well, the price of Bitcoin can't go up until that sell wall is cleared. There's 100,000 coins to buy at 110,000. How much is 10 billion, or however much that's worth? It's like the price cannot go above that until that sell wall is cleared. Okay, because that's active liquid supply suppressing the price. Okay, but where those coins are lost, where that situation and scenario cannot occur, when buyers are stepping in, if there are no sellers, if there's no sell wall, the only thing they can do is push the price up. Okay, so for you being remembered, yes, when your Bitcoin is held at a wallet of that you control, you generate the private key, you've done it securely. If it is lost, if you die, it is remembered, because we'll look at that blockchain 10 years from now and we'll see those coins haven't moved in 10 years, and that money, those Bitcoins are inaccessible. And what remains with those who are consciously alive, that the work you would have done that would have got forgotten in the physical world, that would have been buried, is cemented there, and people sit there and wonder and say, oh wow, I wonder whose Bitcoin that was. I wonder what they're doing now. I wonder who they were, etc. Yeah, man. So it's a memory system. Yeah, it's interesting. You can look at the Bitcoin blockchain and see what the coins haven't moved, and just wonder